Roll Tide! Roll Tide Roll! This is the Tigers and Tide Alabama Football Podcast from SoutheasternFootball.com. Available on Bama Sports Radio, a V-Sporto channel bringing you all Crimson Tide all the time. Remember to download the Bama Sports Radio free iOS app and follow their channel on Twitter at Bama Sports Radio. Here are your hosts, Brett Mason and Jamie Thomas.
Here we go again, broadcasting live from our respective bunkers down in South Alabama. I am your resident Auburn fan, Brett Mason. My co-pilot, as always, resident Bammer, Jamie Thomas. War Eagle, buddy.
Roll Tide, man. First weekend of real SEC football. How about that?
Well, I mean, if you're an Auburn fan, it's been real football every week, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Jacksonville State's part of the SEC, huh?
Hello to everybody on our iOS app or Android app. They're free in the app stores. Look for Tigers and Tide. And you also can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and more. On any of those platforms, pick the one you like best and just look for Tigers and Tide. So Alabama's going to be facing a worthy opponent, man. It's SEC action. You know, I guess as being an Auburn fan and then you being the Alabama fan, we were kind of fortunate to get to wait 2 games into the season before we start seeing SEC action. Some other teams got burned last weekend. How worried are you about facing what appears to be a pretty good Ole Miss team?
Man, I said at the beginning of the year that I thought Ole Miss, this was a game that Bama wouldn't have any problem winning. I completely underestimated the offense that Ole Miss has. Man, that Chad Kelly kid, that dude is awesome. He's got every bit of the greatness, potential to be as great as his uncle Jim Kelly did. But man, he's been lighting it up. 29 for 40, 557 in 2 games, 557 yards just in 2 games. Granted, they didn't play anybody, but still, man, those are serious numbers. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. He likes to spread the ball around. Ole Miss plays a hurry up, no huddle. This is this is a game potentially that Bama may not come out with a win.
Well, I can pull up some old podcasts when we were back in fall camp when I said that that quarterback could be a difference maker, but I didn't know. That was the difference. Yeah. I didn't know, but he certainly had the potential to, but he's lived up to whatever expectations they had. I think the question
for everybody that didn't know better, that was Brett Mason. Yeah, that's being passive aggressive with his "I told you so." Passive aggressive.
Well, it wasn't really. It wasn't an "I told you so." Look, I'll jump up on you if I got an "I told you so." It was just an "I wondered." He could have been good, but he had a lot of questions. He did ask some questions, and he still has questions. Jamie, let's be honest. He hasn't faced an Alabama defense yet, so he will be tried by fire this weekend.
You could say he hasn't faced an Alabama defense, but he's probably played in the 2 games they've played. He's probably faced at least one secondary that's as good as our secondary. Will the pass rush be better? Will the the linebackers play a little bit of better zone coverage? Probably so, but as far as secondary goes, Bama's still hurting.
Well, you look at his numbers. He's 29 for 40. That's 72% in the first 2 games. 557 yards, averaging 14 an attempt, 6 TDs, and just 1 pick to his credit. He looks like a barn burner, man. He looks like he's playing all world right now. And that is the one suspect part of the Alabama defense. You weren't able to be on the Monday show with us, but Elizabeth and I talked about that a little bit. If there's one place Alabama potentially could get burned, this might even be the big game of the season. It remains to be seen again. We just don't know about Ole Miss. But as far as matched up, they are matched up well against Alabama, especially in that aspect.
Yeah, if Bama doesn't figure out a way to stop this passing game, then really it's the blueprint for everyone else that plays Alabama the rest of the year that has an above-average quarterback. And Chad Kelly's definitely an above-average quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see if Cyrus and Brown and Kevin Jackson and those other guys can step up and make plays.
Let's talk about the Ole Miss defense just a little bit. I don't even know that they've really had a chance to shine or so, but they're averaging 1.5 turnovers a game. They're allowing 139 yards a game rushing, which is a little on the high side. I think that plays a little bit to Alabama's favor, definitely. So talk a little bit about the defense if you've had a chance to look at it much, which they expected to be really good this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, the name that sticks out is, Robert Nkemdiche. He's been a playmaker since he's been at Ole Miss. Not sure if he's a junior or a senior this year, but that's one guy that can really make a difference. On the Alabama running game, he's going to put pressure on the quarterback. Anytime Coker drops back or anytime Bateman, whoever it's going to be, drops back to take a pass, Nkemdiche's going to be there. And the way that our right tackle has been getting beat, the way he got beat Saturday against Middle Tennessee State, Nkemdiche's going to have a good day. I expect to see 2 or 3 sacks out of him, and I expect to see him in the backfield quite a bit, making plays against the running game.
All across the TV spectrum of several different shows, they're hyping this up as the revenge game. It's a big hype factor. Do you really think anybody needs that to get up for this game? I mean, this is big for both teams.
The heads like to talk about revenge games. The Saban's record in revenge games. Anytime a team beats him the year before, he comes back and usually it's a blowout. But I think this is a little bit different. I don't like that it's an 8:15 kickoff. That to me is bad news. Bama, typically they play sluggish early in the day and they play sluggish late at night. They're just not a late night football team. Had this game been a 6 o'clock or even a 7 o'clock kickoff, I think the advantage is there for Alabama. I think Ole Miss coming in, the game being that late, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to get the players up for this game or not. As far as the revenge factor goes, I think they're just going to go out just like every year. It's one game at a time and just try to win the football game.
Well, we're going to talk about what Alabama needs to do. Of course, we need to discuss some quarterback issues. We've talked a little bit about the secondary. Maybe we'll get a little bit more into that. But, what is exactly Alabama's going to have to get out of this game with a win? And hopefully it'd be nice, if you're an Alabama fan, to get out with an impressive win. That would surely set the tone for the rest of the season. We'll look at that coming up next. First, we want to remind you about fantasy sports with DraftKings.com. Boy, people are getting paid. It is huge. And I just got a message from those guys today. They are continuing the $100,000 free roll into this another week, and they're also doing Millionaire Maker another week. So you can play at DraftKings.com for free. All you have to do is just enter promo code Tigers and Tide. That's all one word. Tigers and Tide is the promo code at DraftKings.com. Get in on that $100,000 contest. That's free, and you can also play in the Millionaire Maker. Somebody going to win $2 million at DraftKings.com.
I bombed last week.
Yeah, I forgot. I didn't do anything. I didn't even get my picks in for our little pick contest. I forgot to do DraftKings. I just didn't do anything last week, and I sucked it up big time.
Yeah. By the way, I know you guys announced a winner on the in the picks, but I would just like to say, even though I don't qualify for the prize,
here we go.
I had the most correct picks last week, and Brett, you were 0 for 17. So
here we go. I would like you to know that myself and Elizabeth congratulated you on performing well, buddy. We didn't leave you hanging.
And 0
I
for 17, man. Way to set the standard.
Look, I just forgot to put the picks in. And the thing I got to do now is I have to figure out a way to somehow distract you so that you miss a week, so that I can get back and compete with you for the year-long standings. Because it's going to be, I think I could still beat you, spotting you a week, but it's going to be pretty hard.
I'll tell you what we should do, just between me and you, I'll let you discount your worst week if you'll let me take out my worst week during the year.
I'll do that if we can toss out top and bottom.
No.
All right, then.
You're killing me.
No deal then, man. Look, you got like a perfect week or something going. If you get to keep that thing in there, no way, man. Let's move on to what Alabama needs to do to win this competition. Let's start out talking about your quarterback position. Although you aren't as in dire situation as Auburn is, it still looks a little suspect at times.
I can't figure out. Well, I can figure out why I'm not, contempt with Jake Coker being the starting quarterback. I mean, his man, I can't talk today, Brett. His statistics are there. I mean, he's had, a pretty good season so far. I mean, the kid's 30 for 47, 2 touchdowns, an interception, completed 63% of his passes. But, man, he just looks like a deer in the headlights. Anytime that, he seems to get in trouble, he doesn't have the footwork. He does it, to me, just doesn't look like he's confident out on the field. And I saw a few times Saturday in that Middle Tennessee State game where he missed a couple of wide-open receivers, and the receivers just looked absolutely befuddled. So I feel like there's a disconnect between Coker and the receivers. Coker may be, ahead of Bateman in the, as far as knowing the playbook. But I think if Bateman at this point had another year under his belt in the system, he would probably be the starting quarterback.
Well, Bateman's had about.
He just doesn't. He just doesn't put that confidence in me. I really think that he may throw a couple of interceptions this weekend.
He's had about 60% of the opportunity that Jake Coker has, and he just doesn't look as good. And I'll tell you one of those things, because I talked about Coker last week. It's weird when you look at his stats and compare that to what the impression I get when I'm watching him, because they don't seem like the same thing to me.
They don't. I mean,
he doesn't look sure of himself at all. But I mean, he's averaging basically a first down an attempt, like over 9 yards an attempt. I don't know what more you can ask from your quarterback.
Well, he's also had some really good plays that some receivers and Kenyon Drake have made him look a whole lot better too. So I think those numbers, the completions and the yards are, exaggerated a little bit just because of the plays that some of those guys have been able to make.
Well, much like Ole Miss is going to be trying their quarterback, who's looked really good so far by fire, with a little bit better team, especially facing that defensive front. Coker's going to be facing a pretty good defense this week too. So, I mean, I think you probably could learn a lot more about him this week than, Wisconsin was okay, but I think he's definitely facing a better defense this week. So you maybe you'll learn more about him, and he may surprise you, JB. He may step up and look all world this week.
He may be. I could be a Jake Coker fan by the end of the weekend. Don't get me wrong. I'm behind Coker 100% if he's the guy, but he's got to step up. For Bama to win this football game, he's got to make better decisions. He's got to hit the open receivers. You can't just give up a guy on a slant pattern. He's coming across the middle and you throw the ball 4 yards behind him. That's just not good football. It's not making the right decision. He almost threw 2 interceptions against Middle Tennessee State Saturday they were just bad throws. On top of that, I mean, really, this Saturday, it's going to have to be the Derrick Henry and Kenyon Drake show. These guys are going to have to step up. Anytime you can put the ball in their hands, Derrick Henry is going to need to touch the football 30 times. This year, 2 games, he's touched it 31 times total. They need to give him the football 30 times. Bama needs to control the line of scrimmage and keep that Ole Miss offense off the field, keep our secondary off the field, and play good old-fashioned Alabama smash-mouth football.
I think you nailed it, man. I think that's the 3 keys to the game. I don't think you want to – this is almost going to sound like a joke, but I don't mean it that way in any sense. Just let me tell you that so the Bama fans don't come after my scalp. But you don't want this game to come down to a field goal. That's just something you don't want that to have that happen. So you want to really try to be able to crush their offense and maintain a reasonable lead. So you wouldn't like to have to come from behind.
At some point, that kid's got to make one. At some point, he's got to break this streak he's in.
Yeah. I think if you can beat them on the ground, and Alabama certainly has all the tools for that. The offensive line, while not as stout as the defensive line, they looked pretty good this year, in my opinion. And you're just not going to stop Derrick Henry. So you get to eat up clock. I think, this is the perfect team to eat up clock against. You want to keep that.
Absolutely.
You want to keep a quarterback that's on fire. And I think the good thing about that, going back to Ole Miss briefly, is there's just something about quarterbacks that find a rhythm and get to where it's just become second nature to him. That's the only upside, I think, to that kid having 2 games like that. Man, he's just going to feel like he's, unbeatable.
Reggie and Jared and Ruben, those guys are going to have to get in the backfield. They're going to have to get the pressure on this quarterback, put him in the dirt a few times. He hasn't been hit all year, Brett. Right. He hasn't taken a sack that I recall. I don't even think he's been knocked down yet. Ole Miss offensive line's been playing really well, but it's really our defensive line, our ends, our linebackers, those guys have got to get in the backfield and make him make some mistakes and give our secondary a chance.
Exactly. Let me tell you something. You put a little pressure on him, you get some line penetration, you get some scrambles, you get some sacks. You could potentially see a completely different quarterback on the other side of the line of scrimmage this weekend. And I definitely would agree with you. That's the key to the Alabama women. You don't do score predictions for Bama, right? Or do you have a score prediction?
I do not. No, yeah. I did once this year, but I'm going back to my old thing. I'm not going to predict a Bama score this year.
I don't have an actual score, but I really, and God, it's so hard for me to talk good about Alabama being the Auburn fan that I am. But I think they beat them by 2 scores. It's hard for me to say that because it's hard for me to picture them beating them by 2 touchdowns, and it seems unlikely they would beat them by a field goal since Alabama doesn't make field goals. But
there it is.
Maybe it's a safety and a touchdown. It's just 2 scores or something.
If the game's on the line with just a few seconds to play, Bama's down by 2. Say fourth and goal from the 9 or third and goal from the 9, 5 seconds left on the clock, down by 2. Does Griffith come in and kick the field goal, or does Bama go for it?
Bama goes for it. Are you kidding me?
I think absolutely.
He hasn't made one all year, right?
No, he's 0 for 4.
No, you don't put an 0 for 4 guy. Now, that being said, if that's fourth quarter and you've had some chances for him to put it up and he's nailed 2 in the game already, then maybe. Maybe he nails 1 first quarter, 1 third quarter, then maybe I'd consider it. But if he's still 0 for, man, no way. Bring out Coker and let's put Henry in there, let's put Drake in there, and let's just run over him. Come on.
Run the wishbone if you have to.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast today. We will be back with you Monday. I want to close out by reminding you, if you'd like to try your hand at podcasting and you think you can do a better job than myself and Jamie, which wouldn't be difficult at all, by the way. Nope. Blueberry makes it easy. You can actually try it for a month for free, and if you decide you love it, it's just $12 after that. You can't beat it. They make it super easy. Just produce, post, and publish. And listeners to our show, once again, we worked out a deal where you get to try it for a month for free. Southeasternfootball.com/free month. You can start podcasting for free right now. Southeasternfootball.com/free month. Make sure you use the code Tigers and Tide at checkout. Tigers and Tide at checkout. It should be a good weekend, man. I hope it's not as crazy as last weekend, but we got some really good games this weekend. So not just the Alabama game, but just watching football and weekend, just throughout the weekend should be good on Saturday. So.
Oh, man, I'm looking forward to it.
We will talk to you Monday, buddy. I'll see you then, War Eagle.
Roll Tide.
Don't forget to follow us at Tigers and Tide 1 on Twitter and Facebook.com/Tigers and Tide. Also, be sure to follow Bama Sports Radio at Bama Sports Radio for the latest on Crimson Tide sports. Thanks for listening to the Alabama Football Podcast from SoutheasternFootball.com on Bama Sports Radio of the Sporto channel. Download our free iOS app. Just search for Tigers and Tide in the App Store. And subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Tigers and Tide. And for the latest SEC news, log on to SoutheasternFootball.com.